So let's talk about some ethical, legal things. These are the things that fall within here. You have a scope of practice or scope of care. This is essential. You guys will have a scope of care. This is what you're going to be able to do. You're going to be able to do CPR. You're going to be able to do vital signs. You're going to be able to lift and move. Do assessments with the providers. You're going to be able to do quite a bit of things. That would be your scope of care. That's what you're able to do. The standard of care is how you do it. Scope of care is what you can do. The standard of care is how you can do it. They plan the standard. They lay out the standard of care by what profession you're in. So EMS, paramedics have a standard of care. Nurses have a standard of care. You will have a standard of care. Let's say you go to take someone's blood pressure. You take it correctly, you put it on their arm, you pump it up, no problem. And on the other hand, you go in there and you put it around their neck, wrong place, does harm to the patient. You violated the standard of care because you violated something that it's not within that standard of how you do something. So you got that ethical responsibilities. That's something that's not necessarily going to get you thrown in jail. May get you sued, but it's not going to get you thrown in jail. My favorite ethical responsibility I always bring up is, let's say, because I'm a paramedic, work on the ambulance, do all that pre-hospital stuff. I'm on my way home. There's a wreck. I don't witness the wreck. That changes the scenario. I don't witness a wreck. I drive up on the wreck. The patient's laying out through the windshield. And they got blood running down all over the car. And he's gasping for air. And it looks like he's bleeding to death. The glass cut his neck and you see blood spurting out. Let's make it really big, right? I'm driving home from here, and I drive by and I go, ooh. Do I have a legal responsibility to stop? How many says yes? I have a legal responsibility to stop. Nobody wants to raise their hand. No, I'm in my car. I'm going home from here.
You're a doctor.
I'm not a doctor. You're really close. So the answer is no, I don't have a legal right to stop. Because like we see that, I don't have a duty. It's called duty to act. I don't have a duty to act because I'm not on duty. I don't have a duty to act. I probably have an ethical responsibility to render aid, right? But I don't have a legal responsibility to render aid. I can watch that person drive by, watch that person take their last breath, and go, okay, keep on driving. No legal responsibility to render aid. Right? If I witnessed the wreck, then I'd have a legal responsibility because I saw the wreck. So you have to have a duty to act here. Ethical responsibility. There's ethics gets in the way here a lot of times. That you think that you should do that, but legally you can't. Ethically, that person that I go out to their house and they're dying, and I know that they're dying, and they won't go to the hospital, ethically, I should make them go to the hospital, right? Legally, I can't do that. They have the right to refuse treatment, even if they're dying, if they're competent. So we'll get down to that. Competence, the way that we measure competence, let me do it on here. It looked cool. The way that we see if the patient is competent, if they're A and O times 4. To person, place, time, and event. That was cool. So the alert and oriented, that means they're alert and they know who they are. That's like when you go to the hospital, they ask you all those silly questions. So they know who they are. They know where they are. They know what time it is, and I mean not Mickey Mouse time, but let's say it's Friday. I know it's Friday, or I know that it is, what month is it? August. Okay? If I know something. When we talk about that patient assessment thing a little bit more, that varies a little bit. Someone living in a nursing home that doesn't get out any may not know. They may know it's breakfast time or lunch time. And then the event. You know why you're in the hospital or why you're in the doctor's office or something. So confidence is measured here. A&O times 4, person, place, time, and event. Very important to remember that. Because that's legally, that's how we measure competency. It's a legal definition. So, oops, didn't want to do that. So, competence, person, place, time, and event. Consent. You have to have consent to treat the patient. The patient, if they're competent, which is what? It means what? You're right. Okay. If they're competent, they are an adult, 18, person, place, time, and event. They can give consent. If they're dying and I'm alert and awaited, person, place, time, and event, I can refuse that treatment. What do you do if I'm in my house intoxicated and you think I fell and hit my head? And I've drank 324 beers. Alright? And I'm intoxicated. But I'm alert to person, place, time, and event. Can you take me to the hospital? No, because it's not illegal, right? I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm in my house, doing my thing. I'm not breaking any laws. What do you do if I was outside, like in the park or something? Is that my problem? No, that's a police problem. It's a police matter. So if they're alert and oriented, person, place, time, and event, they're competent, above the age of 18. What about you guys? Anybody over 18? What about you guys? Can you refuse treatment? Because minors don't have any rights. You cannot refuse treatment. So if I came to your house and you were alone or outside of your parents and I perceived that there was a problem, you had an illness that you needed to go to the hospital, then I would take you. You didn't want to go, you would still go. Even if you went in handcuffs, you would still go to the hospital. Because essentially what happens is, if I'm in your house, once I come in contact with you and you're a minor, then I'm your legal guardian until dismissed from that. There's an exception to that. It's called emancipation. If you're pregnant, that rules out some of you. If you're pregnant, then you can refuse treatment. There's a little gray area. Like if you're really young, you have the baby and you're still a minor, whether or not you can refuse treatment. Doesn't automatically make you an adult because you have a baby. But so there's a little gray area. After you deliver the baby, you become a minor again. We won't get into the grayness of it. But you don't have the right to refuse treatment. If you try to harm yourself, commit suicide, if you attempt suicide, or if you're proven to be mentally incompetent, you don't have the right to refuse treatment. I see if you're mentally competent by person, place, time, and event. Or if there's a legal document there.
Could your parents refuse treatment for you?
Very good question. Yes. Your parents are your guardians, so they can refuse treatment. If I deem that it's necessary for you to go to the hospital and your parents are saying no, 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 then I'll say, okay, no problem. But when I get back out to my hamlets, I'm calling the police. And it becomes a police matter then. I'll call the police and say, hey, they really need to go to the hospital. Parents are refusing treatment. You probably need to intervene here. Police come out. Can they do anything about it? not really. It's not really a police matter. Now they can call Child Protective Services and they come out, they can do something about it. But there's a lot of big gray area right in there when you start dealing with minors and parents and stuff. But for the most part, your parents can refuse treatment. So there's different types of consent. One type of consent is called express consent. And that means when you come into the doctor's office, you're sitting there going, they come in and say, I need to take your blood pressure. And you go, okay, go ahead. You shake your head or you do a motion that, yeah, go ahead. Or you stick your arm out. You're expressing consent to do that. If you wanted to take my blood pressure and I said, I stuck my arm out there, I'm expressing consent. The other type of consent is informed consent. I come up and I say, I need to check your blood pressure to see if it's high or not. If your blood pressure is high, then we may need to give you some medicine. I'm informing you of what I'm doing. See the difference? Express, you're just expressing something. You know, you could be so out of breath you can't speak. You say, just motion me over there. That's an expression. Informed is when I come in and I say, I'm informing you of your medical emergency and I need to do this. Now with you guys, it's called implied consent. I'm making the implication that your parents or your guardian would want me to treat you. It's not an assumption, it's an implication. It's implied consent. You also use implied consent if the person's unconscious. You don't need anybody's treatment if they're unconscious. You can go ahead and treat them. Even an adult, you can go ahead and treat them under implied consent. So those are the different sort of types of consent. Expressed, informed, and implied consent. You have to get consent. You'll notice that in the hospital when you guys start going. I need to start an IV. Is that okay? And you go, yeah. Okay. I just want to come up to you and grab your arm and stick you with the needle without gaining consent. Because that would be an assault. You could literally get charged with assault for that. And actually anything, this is considered a simple assault. Right? It wouldn't go very far, but he could apply, that make you nervous?
No.
Okay. How about that? Okay. He could charge me with simple assault because I touched him and it's unwanted. There's a line in there, it's a police line, it's battery, you know, you've heard of assault and battery. I think what it is like, battery would be like a verbal threat. I come up to you and say, if you don't be still, I'm going to stick you with a big needle. If I had a big needle in my hand, I'm going to stick you with a big needle. That would be battery. If I stuck you with the needle, that would be assault. So they sort of combine them together. So, different types of consent. Always gain the consent when you look at this. The other one's advanced directives, like a do not resuscitate order, a DNR. It means do not resuscitate. Some people at the end of their life, they have a lot of health care problems. They get a DNR. They get a do not resuscitate. I'll show you the official form in the state of Texas. It has the seal and everything. It means do not resuscitate. So if that person was to go in cardiac arrest, you would not resuscitate them. When it becomes more age appropriate, I will have a DNR. Trust me. I already have the other one, another advanced directive called a living will. My family knows that I do not want to be put on a ventilator for a long period of time or be kept alive through pharmacology. It's an advantage for them. That way they don't have to make the decision whether to unplug pop or not, right? I've already made that decision for them. If they say, hey, you know, he doesn't have any brain function, but we can keep him alive. I mean, he has enough brain function to breathe, but that's it. Turn turn it off, unplug it, do something, okay? But that way my family doesn't have to make that decision. They already know what my wishes are. That's an advance directive. A DNR is a legal document. A DNR, if you do CPR on someone that has a DNR, you can be held for an assault. Like if I came in and the patient had a DNR, and I said, oh, no, we're going to, and they hand me the legal DNR, and I'm like, forget that, get out of here. I'm going to start doing my job. I'm going to try to resuscitate this patient. The family could file assault charges on me. Here's a weird one for you. If you saved the patient's life and they got out of the hospital, they could file assault charges on you.
What if you didn't know?
If you didn't know, now that's a good question, very good question. If you didn't know, then you have to do your standard of care. They have to have the document there. So the DNR, they have to have the DNR present. They say, oh, it's down the block. That won't work. It has to be present. Pre-hospital environment, most of them are kept either in the refrigerator or by the bedside. You ever want to keep anything safe and you don't have a fireproof box? Put it in the refrigerator. Think that'll work? So you have the two advanced directives. The other thing is that you have negligence. Every day you can go online and see where healthcare providers are negligent in what they do. To prove negligence, you have to do certain things. One, you have to make sure there was a duty to act. Did the person have the duty to help that person? All right. The second thing is they breached that duty. So they had a duty to act, they breached that duty, and from the breach of that duty, they caused more medical problems, let's say for now, medical problems with that patient. They caused harm to the patient because of a breach of their duty. Then they're negligent. The other way that you can prove negligent if they did something outside of their standard of care. So they didn't do what everybody else would do. So if you're a doctor and you do a procedure that is incorrect, what they will do is they will have, once you get into the court system, the people suing the doctor will come up and have all these expert witnesses. And they will have other doctors come on with the same type of doctor, same year's experience, same type of education things, so they look the same, and they will testify that, oh no, we wouldn't have done it that way, we would have done it this way. And another one will come up and say, no, we wouldn't have done it that way, we would have done it this way, we wouldn't have done it his way. And about after 3 of those, you violate the standard of care. It's easy to prove a violation of standard of care. The other one that's easy to prove is that you've done something outside of your scope of practice. Like if I was to go out and do surgery on somebody, that would be outside of my scope of practice, correct? Can't do that. Not trained, have the certification to do surgery. So that would be outside my scope of practice. So a lot of definitions here, right? I mean, but all of these, you have to know where you lie. You have to know these legal definitions. If you don't, then you're going to get into a whole lot of trouble. If I force someone to go to the hospital that's alert and oriented, person, place, time, and event, what have I done? What law have I broken?
Standard.
Yeah, that. But what legal thing?
Oh.
What are they doing? Book me on.
Assault?
Let me just give you a hint. There you go. It's a form of kidnapping.
What?
It's not quite kidnapping, but it's holding someone against their will. And that is a prison term. Going to prison for that. So
Loss of license.
oh yeah. Yeah, once you go to the big house, you lose your license.